Hi, OBSA. This is Marissa here. I have a business speaker, Kyrie, with me, and we are going to do a little bit more of an interview style meeting today. And we're going to have her tell us a little bit about herself, her education, and how she came to be a part of marketing. So I am going to start off with our first question here, Kyrie. Can you please tell the audience who you are and a little bit about your education?
So my name is Kyrie Park. I work at marketing at Starbucks Coffee Company in Seattle, Washington. My career and my education is kind of a roundabout way of getting me here, but I studied my undergrad was at Eastern Illinois University in Charleston, Illinois. I'm originally from Chicago. And then I started working at Schneider Logistics, which is a trucking sales company. Straight out of college. So I graduated in 2011, and that was the peak of the recession. I had a professor that told me to take the first job you can get because that's the only job you're going to get. So I ended up doing sales for a trucking company, and it wasn't my great love of a career. I was pretty good at it because sales is hustling. You cold call 8 hours a day, something's going to stick. But I didn't love it, so I decided to go get my master's from Boston University. And conveniently, they have a distance education program similar to a lot of your students. I was able to get my master's from Boston while living in Chicago and working full time. So I started international marketing management at Boston University because I knew that marketing was a passion of mine. So I was working at Schneider, and I worked there for about 4 years, was promoted to a team lead. And right about the time that I was ready to graduate from BU, I decided to move to Seattle, and I took a job at Weyerhaeuser as a transportation coordinator. And that was kind of the operational side of logistics. So instead of selling truck drivers, I was trying to hire them for our company. I was at Weyerhaeuser for just over a year and then moved to Continental Mills, which is the owner of the Krusty's brand of pancakes or Ghirardelli brownie baked goods. So you guys might know them. And I moved into a print production management role, which is more project management focused on the creative side. So just adjacent to marketing, I was working on packaging and working with designers and the marketing representatives at Continental Mills to make sure that the packaging for our club goods, so anything that went into Sam or Costco, was exactly what our customers needed. And then just over a year ago, I accepted a position as a marketing specialist at Starbucks in their gift cards. So I manage 3 promos and all of our core gift cards at Starbucks and everything that you see digitally, and managing expectations with customers and figuring out like what niche holidays they might potentially buy extra gift cards for. So we're focusing on a casual gifting occasion. So things like Siblings Day or Galentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day is my focus at Starbucks.
Wow, that's really interesting. And you seem like you had quite a career kind of path leading you onto marketing. So can you kind of explain what marketing is and what someone in marketing does to someone who may not have zero experience with it?
Yeah, so that's a really big question because marketing is a lot of things. Sales can fall under marketing, promotion and campaign management can fall under marketing. Those Instagram ads that you see on social media can also fall under marketing. And then there's product management. So I manage the category of gift cards. So there's a hard question to answer, but I'm going to go back to actually something that one of my professors told me when I was studying marketing. And I should have led with this. I apologize. But marketing is finding a need that a consumer didn't know existed and fulfilling that need. That is what one of my professors told me in college. And I think that is the greatest way to summarize marketing in a 1-sentence phrase. It's dealing with customers and getting your brand and your product in their hands. So the second half of that question was explaining marketing to someone who has no experience. And as someone who works in marketing, the best way that I describe it is we're all consumers for something. And so we have our favorite brands for a reason. And the reason why we have those favorite brands is somebody in marketing or product management did something right to get us to try those brands and love them.
I think that's a really great way that you summarized marketing. Is that kind of how you got your interest in it?
Yeah, absolutely. I had this really phenomenal professor in college that just tied things to our real life that made sense. And I've always been fascinated by how and why we make the purchase decisions that we do as consumers. And marketing is how that happens. So it's understanding your consumers. And there is a whole branch of market research where it's just surveying consumers and figuring out why they're making the decisions to better impact campaign management. So I think that is one of the things, like I know that I buy things and I also like to see the things that I work on the shelf, and marketing is a great way to do that.
Yeah, and with your kind of sales background, do you say that kind of ties into what piqued your interest in marketing as well and kind of what helped you succeed in that area?
Absolutely. I was definitely interested in marketing before my sales role, just because I mentioned I have some really great professors. But my background of sales to logistics to operation management and then project management has helped my position in marketing so well because I understand the holistic from idea to production to getting it on the shelf way better than I would have if I just went straight into marketing. So now I can have a way more efficient um, project management in my role now because I understand all of the little pieces that fall into getting an idea created and produced.
Wow, that's a really great way of looking at it there. Since you have kind of project management experience,
Mm-hmm.
you know that projects don't always kind of go as planned. Can you kind of tell OBSA about a project you led or participated in that did not necessarily go as planned, and what did you do to kind of make a positive outcome out of that situation?
Yeah, well, I will say I have been lucky enough for the projects that I've managed so far for 99% of them to end on time and on budget. But as you know, that is not a common occurrence. But what I am going to share is one of the biggest struggles I had with leading a team of a project like leading a team of a project, because I, in my role at Continental Mills, I realized that our vendor that we had been using for 20 years, and we had never done a new contract, or we'd never gone out to the market to other vendors to figure out if we were getting the best service. So I started a project where we ran an RFP, which is a request for proposal, with 15 different vendors for print production in the industry. And the struggle that I had is I worked with quite a few individuals that had been at the company for several years. They had close personal relationships with this vendor. They were friends with them. They really liked the work that they were doing. And having to convince these people that I worked with, my coworkers who had worked with this vendor for 20 years, was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And the way that I approached it was really having to extend the project timeline dramatically to what it could have been. So in theory, most companies run an RFP and an RFQ within 1 to 2 months. And I had to extend this so I could get buy-in from my entire team to almost a year. And that had to go from getting, and we had to validate all of the information that I was finding from 3 different sources to convince these people who thought they knew best that there may have been another option out there that they weren't seeing because they were comfortable. And while that's not necessarily dictated to project management, that theme of having to validate your facts, especially as someone who's newer into the industry and newer into a role in a corporate environment, is one of the things that I have learned the hard way that you will continuously have to do, especially as a younger project manager.
So, in that kind of way, you brought up the fact that you wanted to learn a little bit more about other vendors and see if you're kind of getting the best value and the best price for what you're getting. So you had to be more of an innovator, I guess you could say, in that aspect. You say like a lot of project management and a lot of marketing positions, you need to be kind of that forward thinking innovator in that aspect.
Absolutely. I think that there is a time and a place for innovation in any role that you're in, whether it's marketing, project management, sales, or even operations. The way that we make change is by kind of being a disruptor. But now that I'm in a marketing role, I have realized that a lot of what I do is very much as efficient as it can be. But one of the things that you need to be able to do when you're coming into a new role in any position, especially in marketing, in my experience, is to be able to look at it with fresh eyes and see and be able to ask the questions of why are we doing this, and does this make sense, and is there a better way of doing it? Because typically when you step into a new role, your coworkers and your colleagues are people who have been in that role for a really long time, and they're used to doing things the way that they're used to doing them. And even simply being asked the question of why do we do it this way can open up the doors to some process efficiencies that people wouldn't think of. So, and the reason why I'm kind of hesitating and saying yes to your question is when I came out of college, I was kind of worried that I always had to create these brand new crazy ideas to get involved. And really what innovation can be is, why don't we do this in 2 clicks instead of 5 clicks, which seems really small, but that could save a minute of your day, which adds up in the long run. So it doesn't need to be these big, crazy ideas. I think you just need to be willing to ask the questions of why and how to be able to potentially get to some better processes.
I find that a lot too with kind of project coordination and project management, is kind of just thinking of the small ways that could save you time that also saves your company money.
Exactly.
Yeah. So leading on to a little bit more about the marketing aspect, are there any kind of certifications you would recommend towards people, and have you really pursued any? So that's kind of a double question there. I'll repeat it again. So any certifications that you kind of recommend people receiving for marketing, and have you pursued any?
So I have not pursued any. And when you had sent me these questions ahead of time, I looked at these and I actually went online because I had never heard of any certifications that we potentially needed as a marketing manager or a project manager. I think the best thing that you can do in marketing is to take a step back and look at it as you would a consumer, as if you were buying it, because there's nothing that I know of or I've been introduced in any of my education of like extra certifications. For like HR, you can get SHRM certified, and for project management, you can get certifications there. But really for marketing, the best thing to do is have a firm understanding of how project management works and how your consumers are thinking. But there definitely is no need to continue on for any extra certification in my experience.
So with that being said, how about any kind of favorite classes? I know you said you had a favorite instructor when you were in college that really pushed you onto marketing and made you really like it. Is there any classes that you received that were your favorite in pursuing your degree? And also, what kind of did you find most helpful when you actually received a job in project management, sales, and marketing that you found aligned with the classes you took in college?
Yeah, so my favorite class is not necessarily my most helpful class, but my favorite class is I had a consumer behavior class in college, and it was just really fun. You're able to take a look at marketing and why we're making the decisions that we're making, and what's impactful and what's not impactful, in a way that it was fun for me to look at as a consumer myself, and to be able to see why other people are making the decisions that they're doing. And from that class, I've been able to look at commercials. Like Super Bowl Sunday, I watched the commercials more than the actual football game, because I like to see the tactics that people are using to try and get people to remember businesses' brands. So that was just a fun class for me. But I would say the most impactful class that any college kid and anyone, even post-college, can take is a Microsoft Office Excel class. I use Excel. I've used Excel every single day in every single job that I've had. And I only had, like, in my undergrad, I had like an intro to Microsoft Office where we spent like 2 weeks on Excel. But having a really strong understanding of pivot tables and databases and being able to manipulate data in a way that you can get your answers pretty easily is one of the things that has been the absolute most impactful thing. And we have a new gal that just started on our team, and she's straight out of college, and she'd never had any of these really in-depth proficiency classes in Excel, and she's having to kind of learn as she's going along. And I can see her frustration, but like, I use pivot tables every day. So even if there's any extracurricular work you can do, that is something that is going to significantly make your life easier when you get into the job force.
That's actually really funny that you say that, because I use pivot tables every day of my career as well. I'm an HR coordinator, and I run reports for pretty much anything that has to do with talent management, that has to do with organizational management. And I am the only one in my office that uses pivot tables, and my coworkers and my management is thoroughly impressed every time I do it. And I'm just like, you guys need to learn this Excel function. It can make your life so much easier when trying to track data and trying to pull it.
Absolutely. I have used pivot tables in every single one of my jobs, and I've worked in companies that don't have the best software programming. So I've had to create my own databases to get my job done in Excel. And if I didn't, I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't always rely on top of the notch software, because not every company is a tech company. And I've worked at old companies that have been around for a really long time, but they've never really invested in software or tech advancements. So having a firm understanding of Access and Excel has significantly made my life easier. It's not fancy and it's not fun, but it is definitely helpful.
Yes, it's tedious, but it is helpful in the long run. So if we can kind of loop back around to after graduation, and your one of your instructors telling you, the first job you're going to get is the job you should kind of take. What kind of pushed you to move forward and switching over to kind of managing teams and project management, and then eventually marketing after just being in sales? Did someone help push you that way? What was kind of your inspiration in that?
So I was definitely one of the lucky ones. When I graduated college, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And my career goal right now is to get into an international marketing and brand management role. I'm not there yet, but I'm definitely on the way. But because I knew that, I knew kind of where I needed to go. I knew that I needed to get into a role that could get me closer to marketing. So each decision that I made, so I took my first job out of college because I was like, hey, I need money. I need to be employed after college. I can't live in my parents' house for forever. So, and it was the peak of the recession. So I did take the first job that I got. But one of the things that I think has been the most helpful for me is every single role that I've had, I've talked to someone in HR or somebody in marketing or someone who I really valued as a mentor, and talked to somebody who had a lot more experience than I did and figured out the best ways to go about that. And at Schneider, when I became a team lead, I knew that I really liked managing people, and I was trying to figure out if that's something that I wanted to do. And after a couple of years of managing people, I liked it, but I didn't love it. So then I talked to the marketing people, and I realized that there wasn't necessarily an opportunity for me to work at marketing unless I moved to Green Bay, Wisconsin, which was not something that I wanted to do. So then I started looking outside, and what I deemed was the best was for me to take a role on the operational side so I could get closer to marketing. So each step that I took, from sales to operations to creative project management, it was always one step closer. But I will say, talking to people that you work with and finding a mentor is going to be your biggest help. The reason why I got my job at Starbucks is I was chatting with some girl that I run with, and I was kind of telling her about how I was frustrated with the job search. I wasn't really getting where I wanted to go. And I was like, had said like my pipe dream was to work in marketing at Starbucks. And she stopped me in the middle of a run and said, Kyrie, I know someone who's a director in marketing at Starbucks. So I passed along my resume, and she got the resume on the desk of the person who hired me. So I had to do the hard work of the interview, but networking and talking to people is going to be the most impactful. And then I had a mentor at my last job who helped work on my resume and helped get me prepared for my interview, because talking to people is going to be able to help you understand whether there's opportunity in the job that you're at, and if there isn't, what else you have to do.
I think that's really great advice. Pretty much every speaker we've had for OBSA has talked about impactful and thoughtful networking. Like, not just to network, but to do it with a purpose, and finding the right people to help you network would make a tremendous impact on your career going forward. And especially finding those mentors, or even if really your company has kind of leadership or employee development. I know currently my company has been pursuing development for their employees, both leadership and individual contributors. Do you have that with Starbucks?
Not that I know of. I do have a really phenomenal manager. So there is definitely a focus because I have a really great manager. And Starbucks has a lot of networking organizations and community organizations, but they don't have anything right now that is, here's how to develop your career. They are focusing on it because they've heard that that is a desire from everyone that works there. But as I mentioned earlier, some companies are just slower to adapt, and that's one of the things that Starbucks is just a little bit slower to adapt to. So finding your own path is definitely something that I would recommend. In my last role, there was a newer gal who came on. She had 20 years more experience than I did. And I really just admired the way that she held herself in meetings and the amount of respect people gave her right away. So I reached out to her and asked her to be my mentor. And we went through and we read a communication skills book together. And she really dramatically changed my efficiencies in communication and meetings. So even if you don't have anything at your company, it's easy to find. And to mirror what you just said about impactful networking, I've gone to a couple networking events, but I'm a pretty hardcore introvert, and I just get very anxious in public settings for people that I don't know. So I always recommend just to find someone that you're comfortable with, that you already work with. And that way you can have that development and your pace.
I think that's truly great advice. So talking about networking, Kyrie has allowed us to add her contact information for any OBSA that may not have gotten an answer to a question, or those of you that may have a question after listening to this video and want to reach out, also want to network with her. She has some great insights on how she followed through with her career, with marketing, following her passion, everything of that nature. So if you guys really liked talking to Kyrie here like I did, you can contact her and we'll leave that information for you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and answering all of our questions and really teaching us a little bit about how you went through your career and how your classes and your mentors really helped you get to where you needed to be.
Yeah, no problem. And to reiterate what you just said, I'm absolutely available by email, LinkedIn, any way that you guys need to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions or help guide you guys along.
All right. With that, we will be signing off. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.